Good morning to you, friends. Greg Merriweather here along with Lauren Westbrook. We're interrupting your program to bring you some information on the Alton Sterling situation and the Attorney General's decision. And just a few moments ago, the Alton Sterling family left in tears. The AG's office obviously not getting the news that they were looking for. In fact, one of the family members were saying, "I can't understand it." And you all knew what they were going to do. No charges on anybody.
The decision here is in regards to whether or not the Attorney General's office believed there was enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to move forward with a criminal trial for Officers Lake and Salamone. This all stemming back from that Tuesday, July 5th shooting that left Alton Sterling dead.
In drawing our conclusion, the Louisiana Department of Justice has considered all of the evidence compiled by the U.S. Department of Justice, the opinions of independent experts used by the U.S. Department of Justice, our independent investigation and review, including our own independent direct interview of eyewitnesses in every aspect of the applicable laws. As with every criminal case, we must analyze the evidence, the law and the facts, and then draw a conclusion. But we are always mindful of the human element. I know the Sterling family is hurting. I know that they may not agree with this decision.
This is the report, including every statement from every single person they did get. Of course, their conclusion in this, they are basically saying that their conclusion is that Officers Lake and Salamone acted in a reasonable and justified manner in the shooting death of Alton Sterling. And if you did hear, we did try to ask some of those questions. We put in a public records request a long time ago requesting that entire video, requesting the entire file. I specifically asked if we could at least let our viewers know that can that video be released today. I was told no comment.
Let's check in now as the family gets ready to speak.
A lot of us weren't even surprised by his announcement. Is that it takes courage to have political office. It takes courage to be a prosecutor. Takes courage to fight for justice. And we didn't see that in this situation. We were disappointed that he's not seeking justice. We were disappointed that they didn't even take it to a grand jury.
Thank you.
We were disappointed in reading this very biased report that they didn't even follow up with a lot of the witnesses and re-interview them. We were disappointed that the statements were written in favor of the offending officer. We were very disappointed that they relied on the two experts from the federal government that found that the actions were justified and didn't try and seek other opinions. It seemed to be an investigation that relied solely on those two experts and not on looking at the facts. We asked them, is it accurate that Officer Salamone walked up and put a gun to Alton's head and said, "I'll shoot you in the head"? That is accurate. That is what happened. There is no justification for it.
They took a human away. They took a father away. They took somebody away that did not deserve to be away. The way they killed him was in cold blood. You know it, I know it. But yes, the system has failed us. Yes, we are disappointed. But as a family, we're going to stay strong. And we're going to keep each other prayed up.
People have to be careful not to take part in wild speculation until you have the full picture. The family doesn't seem to be calling for any violence or anything. In fact, they're talking more about a political reality of this, which is their right to do. So the ball is now in the court of the police chief and the mayor president.
We are expecting to hear from them this afternoon in a scheduled press conference.
I promise all citizens that we will now act swiftly and accordingly. I am confident that the chief will act expeditiously and fairly in his own investigation.
We understand no matter what the decisions are, that there are parts of our community that is hurting. So we're asking you to keep our community in your prayers, because we know that this cloud that's over our community has to come to a conclusion so that we can begin the healing process.
Our team coverage begins with a side we haven't heard from today.
Yeah, take a look. Officer Blaine Salamoni's attorney, that's him right there, sitting down with our Scotty Hunter.
The attorney for this man, Blaine Salamoni, says he expects the officer to be fired from the Baton Rouge Police Department by the end of the week. Now, as you mentioned, Salamoni is accused of firing those fatal shots that killed Alton Sterling almost 2 years ago. But his attorney, John McClendon, is adamant he followed the law. McClendon says now that we've heard from both the feds and the state on this case, he's even more confident in standing behind his belief that his client did nothing wrong. This, despite several voices on the other side who flat out disagree with today's outcome.
Well, think about this. You've had two separate governmental entities look at it. You've had at least 5 expert witnesses in use of force look at it. And everyone said that while it was tragic, it was a justified shooting and that Officer Salamoni did what he was trained to do and he did what the law allowed him to do. So I just don't know how you can disagree with that.
Now, we asked about the decision by the mayor and police chief to forge ahead with a disciplinary hearing for the 2 officers involved in this one. Greg, this attorney, though, has some bold thoughts about why he expects his client to be fired, though, by the end of the week.
The thing that we did learn today is that who made that initial 911 call out of the report today? A homeless man who says that Alton Sterling threatened him with a gun and told him to leave the area, that area being right outside of Triple S. Instead, he went across the street and watched everything happen. Along with the Attorney General's 10-month-long investigation, 2 use of force experts said actions of the 2 officers were not unreasonable use of force and were justified.
Our investigation has concluded that Officers Lake and Salamoni attempted to make a lawful arrest of Alton Sterling based upon probable cause.
AG Jeff Landry says both officers repeatedly gave Alton Sterling verbal commands that he resisted and even tased him twice with little effect. Investigators concluded Officer Salamoni fired shots as Sterling was reaching for a gun. That could be heard in cell phone footage. A loaded gun was later found in Sterling's pocket.
During that encounter, Mr. Sterling continued to resist the officers' efforts to arrest him. The officers used verbal commands of varying degrees.
The experts did agree that Officer Salamoni's use of threatening language was out of line, saying they believed Officer Salamoni pointing his service weapon at Sterling's head and using profane language was a policy issue, and Salamoni should have been disciplined. Now, the Attorney General says that the reason it took so long is they had to wait until that the federal case was completely over, and then they got the case and had to go back and do everything all over, re-interview everyone, and basically do their own investigation. Also, the other thing that we are now being told is that the Attorney General's case, as far as we are told, it is completely a closed case. That toxicology report on Alton Sterling was also released today. Our Liz Vowell is covering that, and she picks up our team coverage. Hey, Liz.
Hi, Kieran. For the very first time, we are seeing the full autopsy report on Alton Sterling. Of course, the report confirms that Sterling died of several gunshot wounds to his chest and back, but it also shows us this: never before released details about what exactly was in Sterling's system at the time of the shooting. The newly released coroner's report on Alton Sterling includes a 7-page toxicology report detailing a long and what experts call dangerous combination of substances. From this list, you can see that blood and urine tests revealed the presence of alcohol, caffeine, amphetamines, meth, cocaine, opiates, and various forms of THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. We asked former medical examiner Dr. Louis Cataldi about how all of those drugs affect the body. While he was not involved in the Sterling investigation, he is an expert in substance abuse.
If this person presented to an emergency room and I did this drug profile, I'd be extremely concerned about psychosis and agitation. I would consider that a dangerous patient.
The autopsy report specifically highlights the presence of depressants like alcohol and stimulants like meth and cocaine. Cataldi points out that anyone using that combination of drugs would be impaired, irrational, and even possibly psychotic. Specifically, Cataldi says when you combine alcohol and cocaine, it creates another compound that can lead to agitation, paranoia, and even heart attacks.
I would anticipate the possibility of agitation, paranoia, could be some paranoid delusions going on. Certainly the person's judgment would not be what we would consider normal.
The Attorney General believes that mix of drugs could possibly explain Sterling's response to the officers that night. And if you want to take a closer look at those findings, open up our 9 News app. We see their full report. If you open it up and scroll down, you can see the 34-page document and look through that for yourself to find those details. Donna.
All right, thank you, Liz. Now that the AG's office has decided that the officers will not face charges, family members of Alton Sterling are talking about their next steps.
Our Carmen Ferrer spoke with the family today on their plans to continue seeking what they call justice.
Hey, Greg, family members tell me the fight isn't over and it's only the beginning of something new in the works.
He was murdered like an animal, and they say they don't see nothing wrong.
Family members of Alton Sterling are disappointed.
They took a human away. They took a father away.
In an emotional press conference on the steps of the Attorney General's office, the Sterling family's lawyers said the justice system and AG Jeff Landry have failed them.
We were disappointed that he's not seeking justice. We were disappointed that they didn't even take it to a grand jury.
But they vowed the fight is not over.
Justice will be served. We will prove in a court of law that the actions of these officers were outrageous.
They're looking for justice through a civil lawsuit against the 2 officers in the case, Blake Salamone and Howie Lake.
And we're going to put it all out under the light of day. We're going to find the truth out, and we're going to show that it was a culture of conduct and behavior that got us to this point. This is not just an isolated incident.
Family members say this case, which has been hanging over their heads for the last 20 months, will not be the root of any more tears or stress.
We don't cry no more. That's why you don't see no tears. We don't have nothing to cry about.
Regardless of the outcome of that civil suit, they say they'll still have a tremendous void.
You see, because Alton can't tell this story to you nor to me. He's gone. There's no more coming back. So there's not no amount of money on this earth, in this world, that can give those kids back to their father.
Not only were family and attorneys of Alton Sterling awaiting the AG's decision, but BRPD, where the 2 officers are still currently on paid leave. Our Kevin Fry has been following that story today on the department's plan moving forward. Kevin?
Hey, Carmen, the mayor says that the Attorney General's decision in this case is not the last word in the Alton Sterling investigation. The fate of those 2 officers now rests in the hands of Murphy Paul, the man that Mayor Broome handpicked to be the new police chief.
We're asking our community for just a little more patience.
A plea and a promise from the new Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul as the next chapter of the investigation begins. Paul says he plans to hold disciplinary hearings with both of the officers involved in the Alton Sterling shooting by the end of the week, at which point he could determine any possible punishments for the men. That includes possibly firing them.
The police officers are entitled to due process under the Constitution and also under the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights.
The question Paul must answer is this: did the officers follow BRPD policies the night Sterling died? In the AG's report, one of the use of force experts interviewed suggested Officer Blaine Salamone may have violated a policy, saying he should have been disciplined for pointing his service weapon at Sterling's head and using profane language. Last year, Mayor Sharon Westenbroom called on then-Chief Carl Dabadie to fire Officer Salamone, but Dabadie pushed back, saying the officers first needed a fair hearing. Today, as her new chief echoed that call for due process, she did not back down.
I am not one to waver on what I have said in the past. I will stand by what I have said.
Still, the mayor expressed support for her chief.
I promise all citizens that we will now act swiftly and accordingly. I am confident that the chief will act expeditiously and fairly in his own investigation.
And once that investigation does wrap up, Paul says he will be holding a press conference to announce the fate of those 2 officers. He also says he plans to release a lot of the key evidence in this case, including surveillance video from the Triple S convenience store, as well as dash cam footage and the body cam video from that night.
Good evening to you, friends. I'm Greg Merriweather here along with Elizabeth Val and our two analysts that we'll introduce you to here momentarily. The headline right now that we can tell you is that Officer Salamone, the officer who fired the shots into Alton Sterling, has been fired by the chief. We expect to get that word momentarily.
We have also learned that Officer Howie Lake will be given a 3-day suspension.
My decision was not based on politics. It was not based on emotions. It was based on the facts of the case. As a result of the administrative investigation into the conduct and behavior of Officer Blaine Salamone as it relates to the Baton Rouge Police Department training policy and procedures, a violation of use of force has been sustained, and a violation of command of temper has been sustained. Officer Blaine Salamone has been terminated from the Baton Rouge Police Department effective today.
I've been with you for 16 years in this community, and I can tell you these are very graphic. Please trust us on that, but they do need to be seen.
Back on.
What you talking about?
Don't move, bro. Stop.
What I did? I'm saying what I did, sir.
Don't move on. Shoot your ass, bitch. Put your hands on the car. Put your hands on the car. I'm gonna shoot you in your head. You understand me? Don't you move. I'm gonna shoot you in your head. You hear me? Don't you move.
All right, hold up, man. You hurt my arm. I'm saying what happened, man. Hold on, my hands is on the car.
Tase his ass.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Pop him again, Howie.
Hey, bro, get on the ground. Hey, man, what the I got this on.
Hold on.
What the
Yes, copy, shots fired, no Foster. What was you not Foster?
Hey! Hold on, y'all stop! Everybody stop!
Stupid motherfucker. Where's the gun? Where's the gun, Howie?
It's in my car, I got it.
Oh, stupid motherfucker.
Folks, we know that was tough to watch, but we played it for you, knowing that it needs to get out there. Clay Young, your thoughts?
Tough. Happened very fast, very intense, tough. We were together on Tuesday, and we talked about context, and we're still trying to gain some of it, but there's no person who can watch that entire thing and not feel the emotion of what happened and also feel sad that this happened.
It's been shocking for all of us to kind of sit back and process, and as we're processing the Franz, as we move through this, it was this portion of the video that played a big role in the chief's decision, because that's the part of the video that is analyzing how they handled the situation. Was there anything that struck you?
To echo what Clay said, the context seems much different than what we got from the Attorney General when he made his announcement. My knee jerk is, I would even say it was very sterilized. You know, the AG's description of his investigation. I am at a loss in the sense of having seen the video now, having seen the body camera footage of Officer Salamone, I don't know why the Attorney General did not go to the grand jury with this.
The Baton Rouge Police Chief has made his decision about the 2 officers involved in the Alton Sterling shooting.
This story took another hard turn today with the release of graphic videos from the night of that July 2016 shooting.
The new video that police made public at 5 o'clock today includes surveillance footage from the SSS store where the shooting happened, as well as police body cams. These videos have not been made public until now. Now here's a look at what they show. Again, we cannot warn you strongly enough. This is extremely graphic.
The new videos shed a lot more light on what happened before the shots were fired. They include video from the store surveillance camera. That camera did not have audio. The police also released body camera footage from both officers that has audio and video. This video shows how it all started that night. Alton Sterling in front of the SSS grocery selling CDs. At some point, he removes what appears to be a gun from his pocket. A man who saw the gun called 911. The first officer, Howie Lake, arrives and tries to arrest his suspect, Alton Sterling. Then Officer Blaine Salamone arrives, points a gun at Sterling, and unleashes a trail of profanities.
What you talking about? Don't move, bro. Stop. What I did? I'm saying what I did, son. Don't move on. Shoot your Put your hands on the car. Put your hands on the car. I'm going to shoot you in your head. You understand me? Don't you move. I'm going to shoot you in your head. You hear me? Don't you move. All right, hold up, man. You hurt my arm. Stop. I'm saying what happened, man. Hold on, my hands is on the car. Taser. You on the ground. Get on the ground. Pop him again, Howie. Hey, bro, get on the ground. Hey, man, what the? I got this on. Hold on. What the?
After Salamone fired the first 3 shots, it appears Sterling moves, and Salamone fires 3 more times. Salamone then goes to Sterling's pocket looking for the gun as he continues to curse him.
Where's the gun, Howie? It's in my car. I got it. Oh, stupid mother.
That decision was one that was not terribly surprising. In fact, it was something that many had predicted in the days leading up to that announcement. But Chief Murphy Paul inside Baton Rouge Police Headquarters just within the last 30 minutes making that announcement official that Officer Blaine Salamone would be fired effective today and that Officer Howie Lake would be suspended for 3 days based on their response and their actions during that deadly encounter with Alton Sterling. Now, Chief Paul wrapped up those disciplinary hearings late last night but did not give any indication of exactly what his decision would be at that time. It is worth noting he did say while Lake answered all their questions, he revealed Salamone did not answer any of their questions during that hearing based on advice from his attorney.
Alton Sterling's family also seeing all of this new information for the first time today. About an hour after the police chief announced his decision, the attorneys for his family weighed in.
There's disappointment, there's sadness, there's anger, and there's a call for help.
Our Carmen Farish with this new reaction.
Just moments after the Baton Rouge Police Department fired Blaine Salamone and suspended Howie Lake.
We have to say up front is that we appreciate the courage that was shown today by our new police chief.
3 attorneys representing Alton Sterling's 5 children sounded off.
The community and law enforcement have to learn to get along. There can't be incidents like this, but it's going to continue because nobody's stopping it.
Responding not only to how BRPD handled the situation.
It's a tough job. They have to deal with a lot. But with high duty comes high expectations. You aren't just the tip of the spear, you're also the shield for the community. You aren't just a warrior, you're a guardian.
But also the newly released graphic footage from the case.
Today you saw that Alton Sterling was not some wild, deranged, cocaine-filled, high, big black man that was out of control. You can't walk away from the truth that Alton Sterling was killed by Blaine Salamone, and had Salamone not escalated that situation, he would be here today.
You'll recall the officers were cleared of any federal civil rights or any state criminal charges. That left the last step today in the hands of the BRPD police chief and his decision on whether the officers would stay on the force. Our Scotty Hunter tonight with that announcement and a special message from the chief to all of us.
Calm and measured. It's the best way to describe Chief Murphy Paul making public the biggest decision of his short time as head of the Baton Rouge Police Department, firing Officer Blaine Salamone and handing down a 3-day suspension for Officer Howie Lake for their roles in the shooting death of Alton Sterling.
It might not be the popular decision, but it was the right decision, make no doubt about that.
Paul says both officers were given a chance to defend their actions that night, noting that Lake answered all questions during his disciplinary hearing last night, while Salamone, at the advice of his attorney, chose not to answer any of their questions. The discipline, Paul says, though, was based solely on the officer's response during the deadly encounter and not on any outside factors or voices that have emerged since the shooting nearly 2 years ago.
My decision was not based on politics. It was not based on emotions. It was based on the facts of the case.
When looking only at the available evidence, the chief says the choice was clear. There were 2 officers responding to one situation in 2 very different ways.
One officer attempted to use de-escalation and disengagement techniques consistent with policy and procedure. And one officer did not follow the tactics, training, professionalism, and organizational standards.
Well, now ex-officer Blaine Salamone says he has accepted he will most likely never be a cop again. At least that is according to his lawyer and what he told us today when he sat down with her, Kieran Chawla. She has this part of the story.
He cried last night. He said that was the worst day of his life, and the last 2 years have been miserable for him. He loved being a cop. He really did, and he understands now he's probably not going to be a cop again.
Those were Blaine Salamone's words, according to his attorney, John McClendon. And for the first time, we take you inside the hearing that led to his client's firing.
I felt within 30 seconds of the meeting that I knew what the decision was. I could tell by the tone of the voice. Last night, the chief is the judge and the prosecutor.
It's why he plans to appeal the decision. Chief Murphy Paul fired Salamone over violating departmental policies, use of force, and command of temper.
So what is next in this Sterling case? The earliest potential date for a public hearing on Blaine Salamone's appeal to get his job back will be May 17th. Now, coming up, we'll tell you exactly how that process works. By the way, the Sterling family filed a civil lawsuit seeking monetary damages. That suit is still likely many months away from seeing a courtroom. And a reminder, all of today's newly released documents and videos, all that we have, are posted right now on the WAFB app. Watch with caution.